Okay guys, today we are doing 7 part C of our transformation lesson. Today's topic is talking about rotations. So far we've done reflections, translations, and now we're doing rotations. So a rotation is basically when you turn something. So notice how this original figure starts with this point and turns in this direction. So we're not going to actually have to count any, okay? I'm going to give you some hints of how to do this. So a rotation is a turn around a fixed point called the center of rotation. And that is this point here. That's that center of rotation. So the figure rotates at a specific angle and direction. And we're going to talk about those angles and directions. So the rules for rotating counterclockwise, so that's going backwards, about the origin. So the origin is going to be our center of rotation. The origin is going to be that point. So if we're rotating back 90 degrees and our original point is x, y, the new point is going to be negative y, x. So you'll end up switching these. And the y will become the opposite sign, and we'll explain. Okay, and then the rules for rotating is 180 degrees. So it starts here and it rotates about the origin, going 180 degrees. If the original point is x, y, the new point is going to be negative x, negative y. So all you'll do is switch the sign on both of those, the opposite sign. Opposite sign. Okay, and if you're rotating 270 degrees about the origin, so that's starting here, going 270 degrees, almost all the way around. Your original point is x, y, and the new point is going to be y, negative x. Oops. Y, negative x. So it means these switch, and the x is the opposite sign. And again, we'll do examples so we practice that. Okay, so we're going to use those rules to now rotate figures. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Again, you can get bigger graph paper if you need it. It's on my table. So we've got triangle ABC. Let's plot those vertices. We've got 1, 2, up 7, on A. B, we've got 6, up 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and C, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So now, the rule for the transformation, the rotation, is we're going to move it 90 degrees counterclockwise. And the rule for that is if we have x, y, the point now becomes negative y, x. So our original A is 2, 7. So what we do is we flip these around. So now, 7, 2. But that y becomes negative. So it becomes negative 7, 2. So we plot negative 7 up 2. That's our image point A. Point B is at 6, 5. And now it's going to flip them. 5, 6. And the y becomes the opposite point, so now it's negative 5, 6. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 6. Okay, and then C is 4, 1. So the new point, we flip them, and the x is negative. So negative 1, positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So the origin here was our point of rotation, and it rotated 90 degrees on the graph. So our new points here are -7, 2, -5, 6, and -1, 4. Noticing that all we did was follow this rule here, switching them, changing the sign of all of the x's. There we go. Okay, moving on to number 2. So number 2, we've got a square, PQRS. So we've got 2, 6, 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1, and 1, 2. And this is going to rotate 180 degrees. So that rule for 180 degrees, if we have x, y, the points change to -x, -y. Okay, so point P originally is 2, 6. So the new point, all we do is change the sign, -2, -6. Q is 6, 5, so the new point is going to be -6, -5. Plot those 2 points. So we've got -1, 2, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Q, -6, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. R is 5, 1. So the new point is -5, -1. -5, -1. And then S, I don't have very much room, but S, the original point, is 1, 2. Flip it around. -1, -2. -1, -2. So we just rotated that square 180 degrees with the center of rotation at the origin. So it went, you can almost see these go in a straight line. Okay. Number 3, we now have a trapezoid that we are going to rotate 270 degrees. Okay, so we've got JKLM, so 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, J, K, we've got 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. L, we've got 8, 1, and M, we've got 1, 1. Okay, so 270 degrees. The rule is that if we start with X, Y, our normal point, we are going to switch them, but the X changes signs. So we've got J, which is 3, 4. So we're going to switch the X and the Y for our new point. So it's going to be 4, 3. But the X is going to change to the opposite sign. So it's going to be -3. So J's new point is 4, -3. So for K, the original point was 6, 4. We got to switch it. Switch X and Y, 4, 6. X becomes the opposite sign. For L, the original point is 8, 1. Switch it, 1, 8. That becomes the opposite sign. M is 1, 1. Switch it, it's still the same, but that becomes negative. Okay, so our new figure we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, 2, 3. The new image J, K is 1, 2, 3, 4, -6. L is 1, -8. M is 1, -1. And now we've rotated that 270 degrees, following those rules. Okay, so now we've got a triangle that we are going to rotate 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Okay, so we've got x, y, z, so that's 1, 2, 3, negative 1, 2. That's x. Y is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Positive 1, oops. Y. Z is at 5 all the way down to negative 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Z. And we're going to rotate this 180 degrees. So the rule for rotating it 180 degrees is we have x, y, it now becomes negative x, negative y. So I'm going to go ahead and write down all of our coordinates and then graph it. So we just switch the sign. So if it's 3, negative 2, the 3 is positive, so that becomes negative 3, but the 2 is negative. So now it switched to the opposite sign, and now it's positive 2. For y, it's 6, 1. Those are both positive, so now they're negative. Doing the opposite. And then 5, negative 7. So that's negative 5. And that is negative 7, so the opposite of negative 7 is just 7. So our new figure, now we've got is negative 3, positive 2. X. Y, we've got negative 6, negative 1. And Z, we've got is positive, negative 5. Negative 5, positive 7. 180 degrees. All right. Moving on to the next page, number 5. All right, so we've got a rhombus that we're rotating 270 degrees. That rule for rotating 270 degrees is if we have x, y, we switch them, and the x becomes negative. So y, or the x becomes the opposite. I should say the opposite. So C, we've got negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's C. D, negative 1, positive 7. E is negative 1, 2, 3. Positive 1, 2, 3. And F is negative 7, positive 1. Okay. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and write my points. Follow that rule. Switching the x and the y, doing the opposite. So negative 5, 5. I switch the x and the y, so now it's 5, negative 5. But I have to do the opposite of this number here. So it now becomes positive 5. Okay, point D, we've got negative 1, 7. We switch. So 7, negative 1. Again, I got to switch the sign. This now becomes positive 1. E, negative 3, 3. We switch. So 3. But this x becomes, or we do the opposite, so now it's positive 3. And then point F, negative 7. We got all negative x's here. 1. Switch them. Do the opposite of negative 7. So we've got 1, 7. Okay, so our new figure, our image, we've got C is 5, 5. D is 7, 1. Oh. And E is 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then F is 1, 7. 1, 7. So we turned or rotated that figure 270 degrees. It's like it started, each point starts here and rotates that way. Rotates that 270 degrees. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this video because of time, so move on to the next one.